You know every one of these words already. You have seen them in books, in movies, in articles you have read 100 times. And yet the moment someone asks you a real question, your mind goes completely blank, your mouth opens, and nothing comes out except silence. That freeze is not a vocabulary problem. It is a retrieval problem, and in the next few minutes, we are going to fix it together, one real situation at a time. I am Emma, and this channel exists for exactly one reason: to take the advanced English words that are already sitting somewhere in your memory and turn them into words your mouth can actually produce instantly, without hesitation, in the middle of a real conversation. Most vocabulary lessons hand you a list of 50 words and expect you to memorize them like a dictionary. That approach almost never works because your brain does not store isolated words well. It stores stories, situations, and emotions. So today, every single word you learn will arrive wrapped inside a real scene, a real conversation, a real moment you can actually picture yourself living through. That is the difference between knowing a word and owning a word. By the end of this lesson, you will have more than 60 advanced expressions that you can use the very next time you speak. At work, while traveling, while describing how you feel, or while talking about the people around you. Grab something to write with if you like, but even if you don't, just keep listening and keep repeating out loud whenever I ask you to. Because speaking out loud, even alone in your room, is what actually builds the muscle memory your mouth needs. Let's begin with the office. Let's begin with the office, because this is where so many learners feel the freeze most painfully. Imagine it is Monday morning, and your manager has just called an unexpected meeting. Everyone is a little nervous, coffee cups in hand, laptops open, and your manager begins by saying that the project deadline has moved up by 2 weeks. In that room, in that exact moment, the words you use to describe your reaction and your plan matter enormously. Let's start with a word many learners only know as careful. In fact, in a professional context, native speakers almost never say careful when they mean someone who pays extremely close attention to small details. Instead, they say meticulous. Meticulous means showing great attention to detail, being very careful and precise about every small part of a task. If your basic word is careful, meticulous is the upgrade. Listen to it in a sentence. She reviewed every line of the contract with such meticulous attention that she caught an error the lawyers had missed. Was turn. Now here is a short scene to place it in. Picture your manager looking around the table and saying, "We need someone meticulous to handle the final report before it goes to the client." Everyone glances at Sarah, but says Sarah is known for never letting a single mistake slip through. Repeat that sentence with me now. Slowly. We need someone meticulous to handle the final report. Good. Say it again, this time a little faster. We need someone meticulous to handle the final report. Now let's actually build a tiny dialogue around this word so you can hear how it lives inside a real exchange. Manager, I need someone meticulous on this one. No room for mistakes. Sarah, I can take it. I'll go through every section twice before sending it. Manager, perfect. That's exactly the kind of attention this needs. Notice how naturally the word fits into a completely ordinary work conversation. That's the goal. Not to sound like a textbook, but to sound like a real professional. Next, let's talk about a word that upgrades the very basic word, hardworking. In fact, hardworking barely scratches the surface of what advanced speakers actually say. A stronger, more nuanced word is diligent. Diligent describes someone who works with steady, careful effort over time, someone who doesn't give up when a task becomes repetitive or difficult. In simple English, diligent means showing care and effort in your work, consistently, not just occasionally. Listen to it in context. Even after 3 failed attempts, he remained diligent, checking the numbers again and again until the report was flawless. Now picture this scene. You are training a new colleague, and at the end of the week, you tell your manager about her progress. You say, she's incredibly diligent. She stays late without being asked, and she double-checks everything before submitting it. Repeat after me. She's incredibly diligent. She stays late without being asked. Say it again. She's incredibly diligent. She stays late without being asked. Nice work. You're already sounding more precise than a moment ago. Let's continue building this professional vocabulary cluster with another essential word, proactive. So many learners only know the phrase, does things before being told, which is clunky and slow in real conversation. The single word that replaces that entire clunky phrase is proactive. Proactive means taking action to prevent problems or create opportunities. See, before they are asked of you, rather than simply reacting after something happens. Here it is in a sentence. Instead of waiting for complaints, the team took a proactive approach and fixed the bug before any customer even noticed. Now here is a mini scene. Imagine you're in a performance review and your manager says, what I really appreciate about you is that you're proactive. You don't wait for a fire before you grab the extinguisher. That's a wonderfully vivid way. Native speakers actually talk. Let's shadow this one together. And remember, shadowing means listening and repeating immediately, almost like an echo. So your mouth learns the rhythm at the exact same speed as your ear hears it, not slower, not with long pauses, just an immediate echo. Listen and echo right after me. You're proactive. You don't wait for a fire before you grab the extinguisher. Try it again, echoing quickly. You're proactive. You don't wait for a fire before you grab the extinguisher. Now, let's add a word for someone who can adjust easily to new situations. Because in almost every workplace conversation, this quality gets praised constantly. The basic word is flexible, but a richer, more advanced word is adaptable. Adaptable means capable of adjusting to new conditions easily, able to change your approach when circumstances change. Listen to this. The best employees in a fast-changing industry are the ones who stay adaptable, willing to learn new tools without complaining. Now, let's build a longer dialogue around this word, because dialogues with more back and forth turns train your ear for real conversation rhythm, far better than short exchanges do. Picture two coworkers, David and Priya, talking quietly after the meeting about the sudden deadline change. David: honestly, I'm a little stressed about this new timeline. Priya: I get it. But you've handled tighter deadlines before. Remember the March launch? David: true. I guess I just need to stay adaptable and figure out what actually matters most right now. Priya: exactly. Focus on the priorities first. The small stuff can wait. David: you're right. Okay, let me restructure my whole week around this. Priya: that's the spirit. You'll get through it just like last time. Did you notice how that conversation had 6 full turns, not just 2 quick lines? That is exactly how real workplace conversations unfold. With reassurance, a little work, and a shift toward a solution. Now, here is something I want you to try. I'm going to read David's lines, and I want you to imagine you are Priya and actually speak her responses out loud before I say them, using your own words if you like, or her exact words if that feels easier. Ready? David says, honestly, I'm a little stressed about this new timeline. Now pause this in your mind and answer as Priya. Did you say something? Good. Whether you used her exact words or your own, that pause and response is exactly the skill that turns you from a listener into a speaker. Let's move to another extremely common professional situation, describing someone who has many skills and can do many different types of tasks well. The basic word is good at many things, but the elegant advanced word is versatile. Versatile describes a person, tool, or skill that can be used in many different ways or situations successfully. Listen to it. Because she's so versatile, management moves her between departments whenever there's a gap that needs filling. Here's a scene. Imagine a job interview. The interviewer asks, "What makes you different from other candidates?" And you answer, I consider myself highly versatile. I've worked in marketing, customer service, and even a bit of data analysis, so I adapt quickly to whatever a team actually needs. Let's practice that answer together, piece by piece. Repeat slowly. I consider myself highly versatile. Now add more. I consider myself highly versatile. I've worked in marketing, customer service, and data analysis. Add the final piece. I consider myself highly versatile. I've worked in marketing, customer service, and data analysis, so I adapt quickly to whatever a team needs. That, right there, is a complete, confident, advanced level interview answer, and you just built it piece by piece exactly the way a fluent speaker constructs it in real time. Now let's connect a phonetic point here because pronunciation and rhythm matter just as much as the words themselves. Notice how native speakers almost never pronounce every single word with equal weight. In the sentence, I consider myself highly versatile, the stress falls heavily on the word versatile itself, and the smaller connecting words like myself and highly get slightly compressed and faster. Listen to the slow version first. I consider myself highly versatile. Now listen to the natural, fast native speed. I consider myself highly versatile, with versatile clearly the loudest, clearest word in the sentence. Try saying it the slow way first. I consider myself highly versatile, spoken slowly and clearly. Now try the fast, natural version, letting the small words blend together. I consider myself highly versatile. That shift from slow to natural speed is exactly what happens inside a native speaker's mouth every single day. And practicing both speeds, slow then, fast, back to back, trains your mouth to make that jump smoothly instead of staying stuck at the slow, careful pace forever. Let's add 2 more professional words before we shift topics, because a strong cluster of related words is far more memorable than scattered, unrelated ones. The next word is resourceful. Resourceful means being clever and capable of finding quick, effective solutions to problems, especially when resources or time are limited. Listen to it. When the printer broke 5 minutes before the presentation, he was resourceful enough to email everyone the slides instead. Here's a tiny scene. Your colleague forgot the projector cable at home, and instead of panicking, she connects her laptop through a borrowed adapter from another floor. You tell a friend later, honestly, she's one of the most resourceful people I've ever worked with. She never lets a small problem stop her. Repeat with me. She's one of the most resourceful people I've ever worked with. Good. Say it once more, a little faster this time. She's one of the most resourceful people I've ever worked with. And finally, in this block, let's add tenacious. Tenacious describes someone who holds firmly onto a goal or a task and refuses to give up, even when things become difficult or frustrating. Listen to it in a sentence. Despite 3 rejected proposals, she remained tenacious, rewriting the pitch until the client finally said yes. Here's a short role play for you to actually speak, not just listen to. Imagine your friend is discouraged because a client rejected their idea for the second time. I'll play your friend, and I want you to respond using the word tenacious, encouraging them to keep going. Here's what your friend says. I don't know. Maybe this project just isn't going to happen for us. Now, pause and speak your own encouraging response out loud using the word tenacious somewhere in your sentence. Take a moment, really say it out loud. Whatever you said, that act of constructing your own sentence. Live. Under a little pressure is exactly the skill that will save you the next time you freeze in a real conversation. Let's celebrate for a moment. Before we move on, because you've just added 6 genuinely useful professional words to your active vocabulary. Meticulous, diligent, proactive, adaptable, versatile, resourceful, and tenacious. That's actually 7, and every single one of them came wrapped inside a real scene you can picture. That's real progress. And if you keep this pace, by the end of this video, you will have transformed how you sound in almost every important conversation in your life. Now let's shift completely from the office to something much more personal. Describing emotions and personality, because this is where learners often feel the freeze most deeply. When someone asks, "How are you really feeling?" and all that comes out is the word fine. Imagine you've just received wonderful news, maybe an acceptance letter, a promotion, or simply a call from someone you love. The basic word is happy, but happy barely captures the intensity of that moment. The advanced word is elated. Elated means extremely happy and excited, often because of some specific good news or achievement. Listen to it. When she opened the envelope and saw she'd been accepted, she was absolutely elated, jumping up and down in the kitchen. Here's a scene. Your friend calls you, breathless with excitement, and says, "I got the job! I got it!" And you respond, "That's incredible. You must be elated right now." Let's practice that response together. Repeat slowly. "That's incredible. You must be elated right now." Once more, a bit faster and with real excitement in your voice. "That's incredible. You must be elated right now." Now let's go the opposite direction, toward a word for nervous anticipation about something uncertain. Because this feeling comes up constantly in real life, before interviews, before difficult conversations, before medical appointments. The basic word is worried, but a more precise, advanced word is apprehensive. Apprehensive means feeling anxious or fearful about some things that might happen. A kind of nervous unease about the future. Listen to it. "I felt apprehensive walking into the interview room, not because I was unprepared, but because so much depended on those next 20 minutes. Here's a longer dialogue to really live inside this feeling. Picture two friends, Maya and Tom, sitting in a waiting room before a job interview. Maya: "I'm actually really apprehensive about this one." Tom: "Why? You prepared so much this time." Maya: "I know, but this company is exactly where I want to work, so the stakes feel higher." Tom: "That makes sense, but remember, apprehensive doesn't mean unprepared. It just means you care." Maya: "That's actually a really comforting way to think about it." Tom: "You've got this. Seriously, walk in there and just be yourself." Did you notice 6 turns, again, moving from worry to comfort to encouragement, exactly the emotional arc of a real supportive conversation between friends. Now, let's try the role switch technique. I'll speak as Tom, and I want you to respond as Maya. In your own words, describing why you feel apprehensive about something real in your own life right now. Ready? Tom says, "You seem a little nervous today. What's going on?" Now pause and speak your own honest answer out loud using the word apprehensive somewhere in it. Let's add a word describing someone who bounces back quickly after difficulty, because this quality comes up constantly when people describe inspiring figures, athletes, or even themselves after a hard year. The basic phrase is doesn't give up, but the elegant single word is resilient. Resilient means able to recover quickly from difficulties, remaining strong and adaptable even after hardship. Listen to it. After losing his job twice in 1 year, he remained remarkably resilient, using each setback as motivation to build something better. Here's a scene. You're talking about a family member who has faced a lot of challenges, and you say, "Honestly, my mother is the most resilient person I know. She's rebuilt her life from nothing twice." Repeat with me. My mother is the most resilient person I know. Say it again, letting your voice carry real admiration. My mother is the most resilient person I know. Let's connect a pronunciation point here too, because emotional vocabulary often carries strong intonation patterns that basic vocabulary doesn't. Notice how, in a sentence expressing genuine admiration like that, 1, the voice actually rises slightly on the word most, and then falls warmly on no, almost like a gentle wave. Listen to the flat, robotic version first. My mother is the most resilient person I know, spoken with no emotional shape at all. Now listen to the natural emotional version, where most rises just slightly and no falls softly with warmth. My mother is the most resilient person I know. Try the flat version first, just to hear the difference. Now try the warm, natural version, letting your pitch actually rise and fall like a real wave of feeling. That small rise and fall is often the exact thing missing. When learners say a sentence is grammatically correct, but somehow sounds a little flat or robotic to native ears. Let's add one more personality word before we move to travel. Empathetic. Empathetic describes someone who can understand, and share the feelings of another person, someone who genuinely senses what others are going through. Listen to it. Even though she'd never experienced that exact loss herself, she was empathetic enough to know exactly what comfort to offer. Here's a quick scene. A friend is going through a hard breakup, and you tell someone else, "I just try to be as empathetic as possible. I don't offer advice. Unless she asks, I just listen." Repeat that with me. I just try to be as empathetic as possible. One more time. I just try to be as empathetic as possible. I don't offer advice unless she asks. I just listen. Beautiful. That's real emotional intelligence expressed in fluent, natural English. Now, before we travel across the world together in the next block, let's do a very short listening for gist exercise, because one of the biggest reasons learners freeze in real conversations is that they try to catch every single word a native speaker says. Gez. And when they miss one word, their whole brain stalls in panic. Real fluent listening doesn't work that way at all. Native speakers themselves miss words constantly in every language, and they simply catch the general meaning and keep moving forward smoothly, using small natural responses like I see. That makes sense, or right, even when they didn't understand 100%. Listen to this slightly fast. Run together sentence, and don't try to catch every word. Just catch the general feeling. Yeah, honestly, it's been a bit of a crazy week, but I think we're finally getting somewhere with it. Did you catch every word? Probably not, and that's completely fine, because the general meaning is simply this. The week has been busy, but things are improving. A fluent listener would simply respond, "Right. That's good to hear," without needing to decode every single syllable. That's the real listening skill. Catching meaning, not catching every word, and it will save you from freezing dozens of times a week once you truly trust it. Now let's step outside the office entirely and travel somewhere beautiful, because describing places well is one of the fastest ways to sound like a natural, confident English speaker rather than someone reciting a textbook. Imagine you've just arrived in a small coastal town, the kind of place with narrow streets and old stone houses. The basic word is pretty, but a much richer word for this kind of scene is picturesque. Picturesque means visually charming or attractive, especially in a way that looks like it belongs in a painting or a postcard. Listen to it in context. We turned a corner, and suddenly the whole village opened up in front of us. Tiny, colorful houses stacked along the hillside. Absolutely picturesque. Here's a scene for you. You're sending a voice message to a friend describing your trip, and you say, "Honestly, this town is so picturesque, I keep stopping every 5 minutes just to take another photo." Let's practice that together. Repeat slowly. This town is so picturesque. Now, the fuller sentence. This town is so picturesque, I keep stopping every 5 minutes just to take another photo. Let's contrast that with a place that's busy, crowded, and full of energy, because both experiences come up constantly when people talk about travel. The basic word is busy, but the advanced, more vivid word is bustling. Bustling describes a place full of energetic activity and movement, lots of people, noise, and life happening all at once. Listen to it. The night market was absolutely bustling, vendors shouting prices, the smell of grilled food everywhere, and crowds moving in every direction. Here's a mini dialogue between two travelers, Alex and Nadia, arriving at a market for the first time. Alex: "Wow, this place is bustling. I didn't expect this many people on a Tuesday." Nadia: "Right? And it's only 6 in the evening. Apparently it gets even busier around 8. Alex: "I love this kind of energy though. It feels so alive." Nadia: "Same. Though I definitely want to try that noodle stall before the line gets even longer. Alex, deal. Let's go now while we still can. Nadia, perfect. Lead the way. Notice how naturally bustling slid into a completely ordinary travel conversation, exactly the kind of exchange you might actually have. Now, let's take the opposite scene, somewhere calm, quiet, and peaceful. The basic word is quiet, but a beautifully advanced word here is serene. Serene means calm, peaceful, and untroubled, often describing a place, a scene, or even a person's expression. Listen to it. After the chaos of the city, the lake felt completely serene, just the sound of water gently touching the shore. Here's a scene. You're describing a quiet retreat to a friend back home. You say, "It was exactly what I needed. So serene, no traffic noise, no notifications, just birds and wind." Let's practice, repeating slowly first. It was so serene, no traffic noise, no notifications. Now say it again, a little more relaxed, almost like you're actually remembering that peaceful feeling. It was so serene, no traffic noise, no notifications, just birds and wind. Let's connect a phonetic point here as well, because travel storytelling often relies on connected speech where words blur naturally together at native speed. Listen to how kind of often becomes something closer to kinda in fast, natural speech. Listen to the slow, careful version first. I kind of want to stay here forever. Now listen to the fast, natural, connected version. I kind of want to stay here forever, with kind of blending into kinda and want to blending into wanna. This isn't lazy or incorrect English. It's simply how native speakers actually talk at a comfortable, relaxed pace. Try the slow version first. I kind of want to stay here forever. Now try the fast, connected version. I kind of want to stay here forever. That blending is something you'll hear constantly once you start listening for it. And now that your ear knows what to listen for, you'll start catching it everywhere. Let's add a word for a small, charming, old-fashioned place, because this comes up constantly in travel descriptions. The basic word is nice or old, but the elegant advanced word is quaint. Quaint describes something attractively old-fashioned or unusual in a charming, pleasant way. Listen to it. We stayed in the quaintest little inn, wooden floors that creaked with every step, and a fireplace that had clearly been there for 100 years. Here's a scene. You're recommending a place to a friend planning their own trip. And you say, "If you get the chance, stay in the old town. It's full of these quaint little guest houses, nothing fancy, but so full of character." Repeat with me. It's full of these quaint little guest houses. Once more, adding the full sentence. It's full of these quaint little guest houses, nothing fancy, but so full of character. And let's finish this travel cluster with a word for somewhere far away from crowds, hidden and peaceful in its isolation. The basic word is hidden, but the richer, more evocative word is secluded. Secluded means private, quiet, and sheltered from other people, or from view, often describing a place that feels wonderfully hard to find. Listen to it. We hiked for almost an hour to reach this secluded little beach, completely empty except for the two of us. Here's a role play for you. Imagine a friend asks you where you'd love to go on your next vacation. And I want you to answer using the word secluded, describing your own dream destination in your own words. Here's the question. So, where would you go if you could go absolutely anywhere right now? Pause and speak your answer out loud, using secluded somewhere in your sentence. Beautiful. That's genuine progress. You've now added picturesque, bustling, serene, quaint, and secluded to your active vocabulary. 5 more words that instantly make your travel stories sound vivid and specific instead of vague and repetitive. Let's shift now to a completely different world. Technology, because in today's real conversations, whether at work, with friends, or even in casual small talk, technology vocabulary comes up constantly, and this is exactly where many learners default back to overly simple words like good or bad. Imagine you're describing a new app that works perfectly, with no interruptions, no confusion, everything just flowing smoothly from one step to the next. The basic phrase is it works well, but the advanced word is seamless. Seamless describes something that happens smoothly and continuously without any awkward interruptions or visible transitions. Listen to it in context. The transition from the old system to the new one was completely seamless. Employees barely noticed anything had changed. Here's a scene. You're a project manager reporting to your team about a new software rollout. You say, I'm really happy to report that the migration was seamless, 0 downtime, 0 complaints. Let's practice that. Repeat slowly. The migration was seamless. Now the fuller version. I'm really happy to report that the migration was seamless, 0 downtime, 0 complaints. Let's add another word describing something easy to understand and use without needing instructions. The basic word is easy, but the advanced word here is intuitive. Intuitive describes something designed so naturally that people understand how to use it immediately, almost by instinct, without needing to be taught. Listen to it. What I love about this new interface is how intuitive it is. My grandmother figured it out in about 30 seconds. Here's a longer dialogue between 2 coworkers testing new software, Ben and Yuki. Ben, have you tried the new dashboard yet? Yuki, just this morning, actually, and I'm impressed. It's so intuitive. Ben, really? I remember the old one took me weeks to fully understand. Yuki, exactly. This one just makes sense. Everything's exactly where you'd expect it to be. Ben, that's honestly rare for enterprise software. Yuki, I know. Whoever designed this actually thought about the user for once. 6 turns again, moving from a simple question into genuine shared appreciation, exactly how real workplace small talk unfolds. Now, Let's add a slightly more technical but extremely common word: obsolete. Obsolete describes something that is no longer useful or needed because something newer and better has replaced it. Listen to it. Honestly, physical maps have become almost completely obsolete now that everyone navigates with their phones. Here's a scene. You're talking with a friend about old technology you used to own. You say, "Remember when we thought flip phones were amazing? They feel completely obsolete now. It's kind of wild how fast things change." Repeat with me. They feel completely obsolete now. Once more, with the fuller sentence. They feel completely obsolete now. It's kind of wild how fast things change. Let's connect a rhythm and stress point here too. In technical or opinion-based sentences like this one, native speakers often stress the word that carries the strongest emotional judgment, in this case, obsolete, while letting the surrounding words soften and speed up. Listen to the flat version. Every word given equal weight. They feel completely obsolete now, spoken robotically with no emphasis at all. Now listen to the natural version with real stress, landing hard on obsolete. They feel completely obsolete now, with a clear emphasis and slight lengthening on that one important word. Try the flat version first. They feel completely obsolete now. Now try it with natural stress, letting your voice really land on obsolete. They feel completely obsolete now. That's the exact technique native speakers use constantly, letting stress fall on the word that actually carries the meaning, while the rest of the sentence moves quickly and lightly around it. Let's add one more technology word: groundbreaking, because it appears constantly in real conversations about innovation, science, and new ideas. Groundbreaking describes something so new and original that it represents a genuine breakthrough, something that changes how people think about a subject. Listen to it. This new treatment isn't just an improvement. Doctors are calling it genuinely groundbreaking. Here's a role play for you. Imagine you're at a dinner party and someone asks what you think is the most groundbreaking technology of the last 10 years. I want you to actually answer that question out loud in your own words, using the word groundbreaking somewhere in your answer. Here's the question, spoken as if I'm sitting across the table from you. So, out of everything that's happened with technology recently, what do you think has really been groundbreaking? Pause and answer for real, out loud. Wonderful. You're building real momentum now. Seamless, intuitive, obsolete, and groundbreaking are all now part of your active vocabulary, ready to use the next time technology comes up in a real conversation, and it always does. Let's take a short breath here, just for a moment. Close your eyes if you're somewhere safe to do so, or simply soften your gaze if you're walking or commuting. Take one slow breath in and let it out slowly. You've already learned more than 15 genuinely useful advanced words in the last few minutes, and your brain is doing real, valuable work right now, quietly organizing all of this into long-term memory, even while you rest for these few seconds. There's no rush here. Let's continue gently into the next section, describing people and places using your 5 senses, one of the richest and most natural ways advanced English speakers actually talk. Let's begin with a word for a place, a room, or a personality that feels bright, energetic, and full of life. The basic word is lively, but the more elegant, advanced word is vibrant. Vibrant describes something full of energy, color, and life, whether it's a city, a piece of art, or even someone's personality. Listen to it. The market was vibrant with color, deep reds and yellows, spilling out of every fruit stall, music playing from somewhere unseen. Here's a scene. You're describing your new coworker to a friend. You say, she's got this vibrant energy. Honestly, the whole office feels different since she joined. Repeat with me. She's got this vibrant energy. One more time with the fuller sentence. She's got this vibrant energy. Honestly, the whole office feels different since she joined. Let's add a word for a place that feels comfortable, warm, and small in a pleasant way. The basic word is comfortable, but the more evocative word is cozy. Cozy describes a space that feels warm, comfortable, and inviting, often small in a way that feels safe rather than cramped. Listen to it. The little cafe had exactly 3 tables, soft yellow lighting, and the kind of cozy atmosphere that makes you want to stay for hours. Here's a scene. You're describing your new apartment to your family over a video call. You say, "It's small, but it's so cozy. I actually love how easy it is to keep warm in winter." Let's practice. Repeat slowly. It's small, but it's so cozy. Once more, adding detail. It's small, but it's so cozy. I actually love how easy it is to keep warm in winter. Now, let's go the opposite direction. Describing a place that feels enormous, almost overwhelming in its size. The basic word is big, but the far more advanced and vivid word is cavernous. Cavernous describes a space so large it feels almost like a cave. Cave, echoing, vast, sometimes even a little intimidating in its emptiness. Listen to it. We walked into the old train station, and the ceiling stretched so high above us, the whole space felt cavernous, our footsteps echoing everywhere. Here's a role play for you. Imagine you just walked into an enormous empty warehouse that's being turned into an art gallery, and a friend asks what it's like inside. I want you to describe it out loud, in your own words, using cavernous somewhere. Your answer. Here's the question. So what's it actually like in there? Is it as big as they said? Pause and describe it out loud. For real, let's add 2 more words to round out this descriptive cluster before we move into a shadowing and self-practice section. The next word is immaculate, describing something perfectly clean, tidy, and without a single flaw. Listen to it. The hotel room was immaculate, not a single speck of dust. anywhere, everything folded with almost military precision. Here's a scene. You're describing a friend's incredibly organized kitchen. You say, honestly, her kitchen is immaculate. I feel nervous just putting my coffee cup down on the counter. Repeat with me. Her kitchen is immaculate. I feel nervous just putting my coffee cup down. Nice. And finally, let's add the opposite. Cluttered. Describing a space filled untidily with too many objects, messy and disorganized. Listen to it. My desk gets cluttered so quickly, papers everywhere, 3 half-finished notebooks, and somehow always a coffee mug I forgot about. Repeat with me. My desk gets cluttered so quickly. One more time, with feeling, almost like you're laughing at yourself a little. My desk gets cluttered so quickly, papers everywhere, 3 half-finished notebooks. You've just added vibrant, cozy, cavernous, immaculate, and cluttered to your vocabulary, and I want you to notice something important here. These 5 words alone let you describe almost any physical space you'll ever encounter, from a tiny apartment to an enormous warehouse, from perfectly organized to wonderfully messy, and that range is exactly what separates an advanced speaker from a beginner, not knowing more grammar rules, but having the right word ready for the right moment, instantly. Let's move now into a cluster that trips up even advanced learners constantly. Commonly confused words, pairs of words that look similar but carry genuinely different meanings, and mixing them up is one of the fastest ways to accidentally say something you didn't mean to say. Let's start with affect and effect, because this pair confuses even native speakers sometimes. Affect is almost always a verb, meaning to influence or change something. Effect is almost always a noun, meaning the result of that change. Listen to both used correctly in the same short passage. The lack of sleep really began to affect her concentration, and the effect was obvious. By Thursday, she could barely focus during meetings. Here's a scene to lock this in. You're chatting with a friend about how a stressful week has been. You say, the stress is definitely starting to affect my sleep, and honestly, the effect is that I'm exhausted by 2 in the afternoon every single day. Let's practice, repeating slowly. The stress is starting to affect my sleep. Now, the second part. The effect is that I'm exhausted by 2 every day. Good. Notice effect as the action, effect as the result. That distinction alone will fix one of the most common mistakes still make advanced learners pair. Let's add another pair. Convince and persuade. These two overlap so much in meaning that many learners simply avoid using persuade altogether, which is a mistake because native speakers use both constantly, and there's a subtle, useful difference. Convince typically relates to changing someone's belief or opinion, while persuade typically relates to getting someone to actually take an action. Listen to the difference. I convinced him that the plan was solid, but it took another 10 minutes to persuade him to actually sign the agreement. Here's a short dialogue between two friends, Leo and Grace, planning a trip. Leo: I still don't think we have enough time for that extra city. Grace: Come on, I convinced you last week that it was a good idea, remember? Leo: You did, but convincing me and persuading me to actually book the tickets are two different things. Grace: Fair point. Okay, let me persuade you properly this time. Look at these photos. Leo: Okay, you're persuasive. I'll admit that much. Grace: That's all I needed to hear. That 5-turn exchange shows exactly how these two words naturally separate in real conversation: belief versus action. Let's add one final confused pair before moving forward. Economic and economical. Economic relates broadly to the economy, trade, money on a national or business scale. Economical means something is efficient with money, cost-effective, avoiding waste. Listen to the difference. The government's new economic policy aims to reduce unemployment, while on a personal level, buying in bulk is simply a more economical choice for most families. Here's a quick scene. You're discussing whether to buy a new car or keep repairing an old one. You say, honestly, from a purely economical standpoint, fixing the old one is smarter, even though the economic situation right now makes big purchases feel risky either way. Repeat with me. From a purely economical standpoint, fixing the old one is smarter. Well done. That's a genuinely sophisticated sentence, and you just built it yourself. Now, before we move toward the end of this lesson, let's talk directly about the shadowing technique itself, because I've been asking you to repeat after me throughout this entire video, but true shadowing is actually a very specific and powerful skill worth understanding clearly. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it back almost simultaneously, like an echo, just half a second behind the original voice, rather than waiting for the full sentence to finish before you begin speaking. This trains your mouth and your brain to process English at natural native speed, rather than the slower, translated speed most learners get stuck at. Let's actually practice real shadowing right now, properly this time. I'm going to say a sentence, and I want you to start repeating almost immediately, catching up to me by the end, not waiting until I'm completely finished. Ready? Even after a difficult year, she remained remarkably resilient and adaptable. Try shadowing that again, starting almost immediately this time, right on my heels. Even after a difficult year, she remained remarkably resilient and adaptable. That immediate, overlapping repetition is genuinely different from simple. Repeat after me practice, and if you practice real shadowing daily, even 5 minutes with any English video, your natural speaking rhythm will improve dramatically within just a few weeks. Let's also revisit the listening for gist skill one more time, because it deserves real emphasis here near the end of the lesson. When a native speaker talks quickly, especially in casual conversation, you are never expected to catch 100% of every word. Not even native speakers do that with each other. What matters is catching the general shape and meaning and responding naturally with small phrases like that. Makes sense, right? I hear you. Or, okay, got it. Even when a few words slipped past you completely. Listen to this fast, natural sentence. Yeah. So basically what happened was the client kind of changed their mind at the last minute. And now we're scrambling to redo half the presentation. Even if you didn't catch every single word, the gist is clear. The client changed their mind. And now there's last-minute extra work. A fluent listener simply responds, "Oh no, that's rough. Good luck with that," without needing perfect word-for-word comprehension. Practicing this mindset, trusting the gist, instead of panicking over missed words, is honestly one of the fastest ways to stop freezing in real conversations. Now let's do the self-practice exercise. I promised earlier, the one where you describe your own surroundings out loud using the exact vocabulary you've learned today. This is the exercise that actually turns today's lesson into a permanent habit, rather than something you forget by tomorrow. Look around wherever you are right now, whether that's your bedroom, an office, a train, or a cafe. I want you to describe your surroundings out loud, using at least 3 or 4 of today's words. Let me model it first, so you can hear exactly what this sounds like. I'm sitting at my desk right now, and honestly, it's gotten a little cluttered this week, papers everywhere. But there's something cozy about the late afternoon light. Coming through the window, it feels quietly serene compared to how bustling the streets outside sound. Did you notice? 4 words used naturally in about 20 seconds. Cluttered, cozy, serene, bustling, describing a completely real, ordinary moment. Now, it's genuinely your turn. Pause this video if you need to, or just speak right now, out loud for about 30 seconds, describing exactly where you are, using as many of today's words as you can. Don't worry about being perfect. The goal is simply activating these words with your own mouth in your own real environment. Go ahead, speak now, however that felt, whether smooth or a little clumsy. That discomfort is completely normal, and it means the exercise is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Building a new pathway between the words in your memory and the words your mouth can actually produce under pressure. That pathway only gets stronger with repetition. So I genuinely encourage you to do this exact exercise again tomorrow, describing a completely different room or place. Now, let's move into our fluency round. A fast, energetic review of every single word from today, spoken quickly and continuously, because reviewing vocabulary at natural conversational speed, right at the end of a lesson, is what actually locks everything into long-term memory far better than a slow, careful list ever could. I'm going to move through all of today's words quickly now, and I want you to say each one out loud immediately after me, keeping the pace, not falling behind. Ready? Meticulous, diligent, proactive, adaptable, versatile, resourceful, tenacious, elated, apprehensive, resilient, empathetic, picturesque, bustling, serene, quaint, secluded, seamless, intuitive, obsolete, groundbreaking, vibrant, cozy, cavernous, immaculate, cluttered, affect, convince, persuade, economic, economical. That's 30 words spoken continuously. And if you kept pace with even half of them out loud, that's real, measurable progress happening in your mouth right now, not just in your head. Before we close today, I want to give you one very specific, measurable action to take. Not a vague like and subscribe, but something that actually matters for your fluency. In the comments below, write one full sentence. Just one, using any word from today's lesson, describing something real from your actual day, your actual mood, your actual surroundings. Not a random example sentence copied from somewhere, a real sentence about your real life today. I read every single one of these, and honestly, watching learners actually use these words in their own authentic sentences is exactly why this channel exists in the first place. That one sentence written by you right now in the next 60 seconds will do more for your fluency than passively watching 10 more videos without ever speaking or writing a single word yourself. You came into this video knowing these words already existed somewhere in your memory. What's different now is that every single one of them has been anchored to a real scene, a real conversation, a real feeling, which means the next time you're in a meeting and someone needs something meticulous, the next time you're apprehensive before an interview, the next time a city feels genuinely bustling around you, the word will simply be there, ready, waiting for your mouth, instead of hiding somewhere just out of reach while you freeze in silence. That freeze doesn't have to keep happening. Every single word you spoke out loud today, every sentence you built piece by piece, every role play you answered, honestly, that was you actively rewiring how your brain retrieves English in real time. Keep speaking out loud, even alone, even in your own room, because that habit, more than any list, more than any app, is what quietly turns a person who understands English into a person who speaks it naturally, confidently, without freezing, one real sentence at a time.